Welcome. We are to another episode of the WFNY CornerCast, brought to you by the Evergreen Podcast Network. I am your host, Joe Gerberry, or Gerbs, alongside Mitch Kroll and Ethan Forness. Is there any other way to start the podcast tonight than the big news of the day? Josh Naylor is going to start his rehab in Columbus, guys, not Akron. Is that weird to you? I feel like the Akron roster is prime for a guy like Naylor to be there.
Go ahead.
Akron only has 3 position players, but I am pleased he drew a walk in his debut plate appearance so far. So off to a rip-roaring start for Naylor.
Yeah, he needs to face that higher level. That's clearly the news. They just want him to face the higher level starting pitching in AAA. Yeah,
makes sense.
No. We had great news this morning, Gerbs. I am not afraid to admit publicly.
Yes Way Jose Day.
Oh, it is Yes Way Jose. That's what the Guardians front office and ownership decided. Yes Way Jose.
Yep, we got to. I think I got to break the news to you guys on Discord today that the extension that we have long been awaiting happened. The Jose Ramirez extension. He got a 5-year deal tacked on top of the 2-year option years that he had that were very team friendly for his production. I think it was 12.8 and 14.8 million per year. And next year and the year after, he's going to be making 5 years, $124 million after those 2 option years that obviously have vested now, and giving him a 24.8 million AAV. It's annual. No, what is it? Average annual value. Yeah. Which would make him the 4th highest third baseman in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. If you want to think about it, it's just like it's now a 7-year, $150 million contract. That's like a nice round number. That's about what it is. And, that's not what he'd get if he were a free agent this year. He would get more money than that. He's a 29-year-old star third baseman. But as far as the 5 years are concerned, it wasn't actually that much below where you'd expect a 31-year-old third baseman to make in free agency. I don't want to compliment. It's hard to compliment this team right now in terms of spending and stuff. But to those who are Ramirez is leaving so much money on the table, he's not leaving that much money on the table. He's leaving some, certainly, but not that much. Also, for the listeners, Gerbs is wearing a Yes Way Jose t-shirt. We didn't just say that for no reason. But Ethan, what do you think of what this means for the future of this team and this core?
So obviously, as a fan, I am both A, stunned that it happened, and B, thrilled. I don't think I still haven't been able to put the words together for how it truly feels. I spent my work day today kind of walking around what felt like on clouds. I stopped in at a place that had ESPN on the TV and saw the ticker scroll across that Guardians had agreed to an extension with Jose, and it just didn't feel real to me. So to further up on some points that you've already said, it cannot be understated how fortunate this fan base and this front office are that Jose took that hometown discount just because he loves the city of Cleveland. I will say he's a smart man. I don't think he agrees to this without having had some sort of 3, 4, 5-year plan laid out to him by the front office, without knowing what the talent at the top of the farm looks like. He obviously played with a lot of these guys in spring training. If he didn't think he was going to have guys coming up that could support him, then he probably would have looked elsewhere. But at the same time, from a team perspective, this is a move that has to be the first stepping stone. Mm-hmm. You've locked up your franchise corner piece. You can't just use that as a handcuff going forward now. You have to develop these prospects. You have to go out and get help. So I am thrilled, and they needed this to change the narrative. They needed this type of signing as an organization, because I had a friend text me today after the news broke, and he said, signing Jose Ramirez was a given. He was already here, so this does nothing for my excitement level for the year. And I was kind of flabbergasted by that take, because when has a player of Jose's caliber ever been a given in a Cleveland baseball uniform?
It's not. I made a mention today on the article I posted for our site, obviously. The list of players that have gone, whether it be free agency or traded away. I mean that have almost even made the Hall of Fame at this point. Is just about as long as the QB jersey for the Browns. When you think back just from our childhoods, you have like the Outer Bells, the Ramirez, the Jim Thome went, CC, Cliff. Everybody's has always gone some way or another. More often than not, they've been traded. This is the first time that in my memory, that we're going to have a player that has stuck around and stayed with the team, possibly since Sandy Alomar. I don't remember. Did Sandy play anywhere else after Cleveland? But I mean, regardless, that's to think back that far. Sandy Alomar being the one, and even then, I don't think Sandy's ever going to make the Hall of Fame or anything like that. But Jose's definitely got a career that looks like it would be headed that way.
Sandy Alomar was all over the place after his
he did play for Chicago.
But just an FYI, just to make you feel old, Gerbs, Sandy Alomar's last season with Cleveland was when I was 6, so I don't remember it at all. But no, it is
children.
No, we went from worrying that Jose Ramirez was going to be traded to knowing for a fact that he can't be traded. I mean, the no trade clause actually, as much as this is a situation where we as fans are directly at odds with ownership, because the last thing any of us want to see is Jose Ramirez get traded now. And now we don't have to worry about that. Even in 2028, we don't have to worry about that. So that is absolutely thrilling. I mean, he's just a special player. I highly recommend Gerbs' piece. I also highly recommend Ben Clemens' piece on The Ringer. That is less about how it feels and just kind of praising Jose Ramirez as a player. The short of the idea is Jose Ramirez is just the best in baseball by a fair amount of hitting balls in the air to the pull side. That's what he does well. He's not the most powerful. He doesn't hit the furthest homers. He doesn't hit the hardest homers. In fact, we actually did a query in the Discord earlier today showing that he actually hits some of the weakest homers in Major League Baseball. But it doesn't matter because he is just so good at pulling the ball into the air. You can knock it. You write it down. 35 homers. He is so good at managing the strike zone. He does not swing at pitches out of the strike zone. He does not swing and miss. You should not be able to hit 35 homers easily and also strike out as infrequently as he does while still walking as much as he does. It's truly incredible. We are absolutely blessed to get to watch this guy for 7 more years, if not more. And I can't wait to get started tomorrow.
It's going to be like a weight lifted off of our shoulders as fans watching this. We already kind of had the feeling that 2022 was going to be another bridge year after none of the front office free agent plays or big trade targets kind of came through. So you just had this really dark sense that if they didn't get this done, it was going to be a not so fun 162 game season, because if they didn't sign him, you're going to have to deal with every broadcast talking about, well, when's he going to be traded, where he's going to be traded. And what good is prospect development if you don't have a superstar?
Right. You're always looking forward to tomorrow. It's never about today. So, yeah, I mean, your friend is right. It doesn't really change the outlook for this season, right? We still have Jose Ramirez, although who knows? He might have been traded, as we've discussed. Like, we might not have had Jose Ramirez to get to watch for 162 at the very least. And now we get to watch this guy forever. And that's just, nothing could make me happier as a baseball fan.
I think it was our first podcast I closed with, I want to see 11 hanging in the stadium. And this is
a real possibility.
This is what does it now. I mean, he's going to be close to 36 when this deal expires.
Yeah.
And Father Time is undefeated. You never know what's going to happen, but it feels like player longevity goes well into players' 30s these days. I mean, look at Josh Donaldson, who's still out there around that doing it. Charlie Morton, pitcher, different position, but Miguel Cabrera, the obvious example, still out there. But, even if he did go somewhere and play a year or 2 or 3 and chase a ring, if it doesn't work in the next 7 years here, I think 11 is all but guaranteed to be in the stadium forever.
Honestly, sure. If he retired today, or tomorrow, whatever, if he retired after the season, he would still get hung up. Like, he is that level of player.
Absolutely.
I think the rest of his career at this point is how many years is he going to be on the Hall of Fame ballot now with the numbers that he's put up and will continue to put up.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't think we have a problem with that. Generally speaking, guys that finish in the top 3 of the MVP are probably the likelihood of that being in the Hall of Fame are probably pretty good on that. So
yeah. Sure.
So we have a big thing happening tomorrow. Obviously, it's opening day, as Mitch alluded to with his comments previously. Before we get to that, though, we did have another extension that happened in our off time in between our podcast, the one with Zach last week and today. Emmanuel Klosse signed an extension that was a 5-year deal for $20 million, and there's another 2 years that are $10 million options each. Buys out 2 of his free agent years if those options get picked up. Klosse was not somebody that we had really talked about as having an extension option. We always hear about the big name guys like Bieber and others. Obviously, we've been discussing Jose since we've had a podcast. What is your feelings about Klosse's extension? Is it about where you would have him? Did he leave some money on the table? Do you think that he got a fair shake, or are they overpaying for 1 year of greatness?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're overpaying at all. Saves get really expensive in arbitration, and that's kind of the gamble that Klosse is taking here. He's taking security, financial security, over, the uncertainties of, am I going to blow my arm out? I think any young pitcher who throws 102 is always aware of that distinct possibility that it can happen to anybody, no matter the precautions you take, the stretching that you do. So him taking job security, or financial security rather, than taking the gamble of what could come on arbitration, I think is a very smart move. And there's 2 things to that. The first is that this is a contract that I think Cleveland's front office needs to get more aggressive about offering with a lot of these young guys coming up through the system. And it's something I've wondered when I've seen Ozzy Albies got his contract, when Evan Longoria got one 10, 15 years ago, it feels like now. What Eloy Acuna, what Eloy Jimenez got, and what, to a certain degree now, what Wander Franco has gotten with the Rays.
Pretty much everyone on the White Sox.
Pretty much, yes. But this is something, prospects aren't a sure thing. But if you get Valera next year and he rips the cover off the baseball and looks like a stud, knowing his injury history, you look at him and say, we'll offer you 7 years, $70 million, $10 million a year right now. Yes, in ARP2, you could be worth $15 million depending on your numbers. But do you think you're going to be healthy enough to get that?
Right.
It's the problem is this is not like, I tend to have a pro player stance. Like, I tend to be pro player, but I'm also a fan of the Guardians, so I'd like them to have good players. So the obvious solution is that the Dolans should spend more money. But given that seems, contrary to previous patterns, shall we say, I don't, obviously, if they sign Valera and sign away 2 of his free agent years, I'm definitely not going to complain about it. No, I think this is absolutely the kind of contract that they need to make to build a core. I agree with you, Ethan. He certainly is. He is leaving money on the table, but at the same time, there is no guarantee that he was going to be the guy he was last year for the rest of his pre-ARB and ARB deals, or ARB years, I guess. So that's absolutely something that now he has that financial security. And you made an interesting point about the saves. Guys want to get saves because they want to get paid in arbitration, right? Now you play him, he can pitch in the 8th inning, 7th inning. He's still going to get paid the same amount. And that is good for the team because sometimes the save situation is, the 7, 8, 9 hitters and you're up 3 runs. Like you don't need Emmanuel Klosse pitching in that situation. Sometimes it's the 8th inning and it's tied and the 3, 4, 5's up and you want Klosse. And now there isn't that pressure on him to try and maximize his arbitration earnings. He can just pitch when they tell him to pitch and get the best guys on the other team out as much as he can.
And that goes both ways too, because from the team perspective, especially with a team that has the reputation that Cleveland does about pinching pennies, right? Maybe knowing that saves are so expensive on arbitration, they see a save opportunity and they're like, throw Karinchak out there. Don't give him that chance. Now they have the freedom to be like, well, if we want Klosse to have 48, 50 save opportunities a season and get us 45 to 50 saves, they don't have to hold that back.
Right.
He's being paid already.
Right. And you're running the risk of do I give this guy all these saves and drive up his cost, or do I pitch him in the 8th inning and piss him off? And you don't want to do that. And now they can have their cake and eat it too, which is great. And Klosse is now a 20 millionaire. That rules for him. So it's a pretty win-win. Yeah, maybe he would have been a 35 millionaire if he had played it out, but he also could have been a 0 millionaire. He could blow out his arm this year, knocking on wood right now. But point is, he is now he now is a made man. He is now, his kids are going to grow up and be very, very comfortable. So,
$30 million, because if he's as good as he was, those options are probably going to get picked up by Cleveland.
Hopefully. I mean, that's the best case scenario for Cleveland.
Right.
Hopefully tomorrow we get to see Klosse, he have the shiny new contract, close out the game. But there's also some excitement about who's starting the game, right?
Yes, we have our opening day lineup to a point. There was a leak from someone. I don't actually know. Well, it was Tito's comment, so it wasn't a leak necessarily. Can't remember who actually tweeted it, but we have word that the outfield is set for tomorrow. We already knew that Miles Straw was going to be the center fielder, but we found out that Ahmed Rosario is going to be in left field and Stephen Kwan is going to be in right field. We have definitely been on the Kwan train this off season, this winter that we have been preparing for. But it's great to hear that Kwan is actually going to get the start, be there in center, or be there in right field rather. We were talking in our Discord. This is kind of the lineup that we wanted. I mean, maybe a few pieces where we'd like maybe a look at Gabriel Arias at shortstop rather than having Andres Jimenez there.
Not me.
Right, we like to say, and there's some that arguments about who would be at short best and who would be at second. Imagining that Ahmed being in left will mean that Andres Jimenez is going to be at shortstop. It seems as though the team is favoring Yu Chang right now, so it's likely that he would get the start at second, but it's possible that it could be Owen Miller or Ernie Clement as well. But this seems to be a lineup that we like, that we've been pretty much longing for. Mitch, you obviously are okay with Jimenez being at shortstop over Arias. Why don't you go ahead and lead that? Where are you at with Andres, and what makes you so the conductor on the train here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been an Andres Jimenez supporter since they traded for him, partially because people were like, oh, the Lindor return, it was not good. They just got this guy who plays shortstop, kind of. He's just a worse Lindor replacement. It's that's really unfair to Andres Jimenez. I disagree with that strongly.
I think about Ahmed at that point.
Fair. Even more disrespectful to Andres Jimenez. No, Jimenez, he has always hit. He has always hit in the minors. at least at a league average pace, oftentimes better. And he is an elite shortstop defender, significantly better than Ahmed Rosario, as I have oft complained. Now, the problem with Andres Gimenez was just that he started really horribly last year. He, started the year major league team. He played for the first 6 weeks of the season, and he was not very good. I don't have the number in front of me, but was probably in the 40s WRC plus, meaning that he was somewhere between 50 and 60% below league average with his on base and slugging. And so that, that's obviously horrible. And they set him down, which was much to my chagrin, because I think he has always shown he's a good hitter, and I think he can snap out of it. And he did snap out of it in a fairly big way in the second half, or I guess when he got called back up, which was in early August. From then on, he was not quite at a league average pace, but below league average pace, just below league average pace, and played elite defense. And that is a major league quality shortstop. And we are talking about someone who is 23 years old. Like last year, I think last year was his age 23. No, last year was his age 22 season. This is his age 23 season. Most guys who are 23 years old are still in the minor leagues. And here he is being an elite defender and slightly below league average hitter, which is a borderline all-star level player if he plays every day. That is amazing. People should respect Andres Gimenez. He should have been the shortstop last year. I will get off my soapbox.
Ethan, what do you have in rebuttal, possibly, or what do you have to talk about with Ahmed and Kwon being in the outfield for tomorrow?
I have nothing to rebut with Andres. I really think that he was thrown to the wolves last season. I don't think he ever got a fair shake. Those were big shoes to fill with not a lot of time for a 22-year-old. And the criticisms of Francona of not playing his young players or not utilizing them properly in recent years has been fair. So Gimenez never really got a fair chance this year. I think we're going to see the true Andres Gimenez this year. Now, does that mean he's going to hit 300, 20 doubles, 20 homers? Probably not. But you're going to see significant improvement over last year. But as far as Kwon and Rosario go, this is huge. We talked a little bit and asked Meisel last week about Stephen Kwon and what the team thinks of him. And obviously the groupthink of national writers and Fangraphs people, it's been incredible, the meteoric rise that he's had. 80 great
one guy lists him as a top prospect, and now everyone, Kwon, he's the rookie of the
Source
year.
Calling him the rookie of the year.
Yeah, Sarah's rookie of the year. The guy from Fangraphs that does fantasy baseball calling him top 30 outfielder. I mean,
Alex Chamberlain.
Alex Chamberlain, thank you. There's a bunch of hype behind him right now, and frankly, I think it's well deserved. Obviously, guys have to perform, but I think more of what this says is that the team and the front office have seen enough of Bradley Zimmer and Oscar Mercado. And I think Mercado's job is probably a bit safer, probably platoon him against lefties. But, you think about opening day, they're not facing a slouch in Zach Greinke tomorrow. He's a crafty veteran who's going to be ridiculously hard to hit no matter what. So to put Kwon out there and have his first real major league at bat against Zach Greinke, it is a pretty unheralded vote of confidence right now, I think. Zimmer struck out 16 times in 35 plate appearances in the spring. His career average is like 35%. That's up near 50. He hit 156.
Steve Kwon has struck out in spring training so far this year.
Cold hard 0. Kwon did not strike out once in over 30 plate appearances. And that's exactly what he is. No, he's incredible. He has the greatest strike zone awareness I have ever seen on a player. And it's going to be
a prospect, right? He's
yes.
not as good as Joey Votto.
He still has to hit major league pitching, but it is incredible what he is doing. So I think that move that he's going to start in right field tomorrow, we haven't seen the full lineup. We don't know where he's going to hit. Probably somewhere in the bottom half of the order until he really starts putting some numbers up and getting more confidence from Tito and the rest of the staff. But
yeah, that's Tito's way.
That's a huge thing. But also throwing Rosario out in left field on opening day when the team was so adamant about him being the shortstop also gives a massive vote of confidence to Andres Gimenez as well. So again, we don't know who we're going to see at second base. It's going to be one of Chang, Miller, or Clement, but this was something for the longest time that we thought we were just going to have Gimenez be our everyday second baseman.
For sure, yeah. And on ending on Jimenez, I checked up the baseball reference. Jimenez is pronunciation on him, so I don't know. Taking baseball reference for it as much as I can. I think it's Jimenez going forward. But to Mitch's point about how much he struggled last year in the beginning and at the end, in the first half, he had a WRC plus of 43 and he 94 or along the second half. He didn't come back up until August. In that first half, he had 85 plate appearances and 125 in the second half. So you can see the numbers there. That large number at the back end definitely was something that helps out with that.
They set him down after 85 plate appearances. That's just not fair. They gave him an unfair shake. We're talking about a guy who in 2020 graduated from Prospectum and Fangraphs gave him a 50 future value. That's the same thing that Brian Rocchio has for them. That's the same thing as Gabriel Arias has for them. And you hear all this hype for those dudes. You hear no hype for Jimenez just because he's already here. It just goes to show that people like the unknown. People like unwrapping gifts more than they do just like getting handed a new computer mouse or whatever you guys get for gifts. You want the mystery, and I get that. Like prospects are just like more fun. But Jimenez, we don't know what we have with him. He genuinely could be the future shortstop of this team. He absolutely could be that. It's just unfair. Regarding Kwan, I love Kwan. I've always loved Kwan, and I have been searching for like the last several months. I'm pretty sure I did a Fangraphs chat with one of their prospect dudes at the time and was like, what about Stephen Kwan? And they were like, Stephen Kwan, like he's a non-prospect. It's like, I'll show you Kylie McDaniel. Nah, he was right. No one saw this coming with Kwan. Yes, Kylie McDaniel's very good at his job. I'm just kidding. But the dude just never swings and misses, as Ethan said. I mean, not only does he have 0 strikeouts in spring training this year, but he walked more than he struck out in AAA last year after walking the same amount as he struck out last year. In AA. And last year, he kind of quieted the doubters by answering his one question mark, which was essentially, can he hit for any power at all? Or is he just like kind of this slap hitter who has a low ceiling? And like, I'm not saying that he is going to be an elite power hitter or anything like that, but the man did hit for like a fair, decent amount of power. What did we say? It was close to a 200 ISO in AAA last year.
It was 194 at AAA in 120 plate appearances, 202 at AA Akron in 221. So in almost double the plate appearances, he had 10 more ISO in AA. So
that's really respectable. And if you want, I was just pulling up the stat and I was kind of vamping. If you look at in 2021, if you set the minimum plate appearances to 300 in the minor leagues last year, Kwan got 341, and you sort by swinging strike rate, which is not misses per swing, but it's misses per pitch. How often do you swing and miss at the pitch? His swing strike rate was, oh shoot, I lost the tab. 2.6%. 2.6%. He swung and missed 1 out of every 40 pitches. Wow, I had to do some quick math there. 1 out of every 40 pitches. That's incredibly few. The next lowest in minor league baseball was almost double his percentage. Like, he is a truly, truly incredible prospect in terms of just pure bat on ball ability. And I can't wait to see how it translates to the major leagues. I mean, I got to watch him in a little bit of spring training, and Guy would get to 0-2, 1-2 count. He'd get a high fastball, and he'd slap it over the shortstop's head. This guy, he should get 2 for 3 tattooed onto his forehead, because that is who he is. And I just can't wait to see how it translates. Regarding his fielding, everything I've read on him is that he has very, very good defensive instincts. He is a natural outfielder. The guy can run. He could play center field if the team didn't employ 1 Miles Straw. But between him and Straw, governing right and center, the man is that side of the outfield is going to be covered, and you can hide Ahmed Rosario in left field because Straw can shade a little bit his way and cheat a little bit because Kwan can cover so much ground in right. It's just all of a sudden, this joke, the Cleveland outfield, they're running out their guys you've never heard of, Quad A. Now the outfield's no joke. It's a major league outfield between Rosario, Kwan, and Straw. That's a darn good outfield. I'm sorry. Credit where credit's due. The outfield's been a joke for several years. It's no longer a joke.
Yeah, I don't think we get to put away the moniker just yet. I do think that it's a tattoo that the Guardians organization has long earned of having a bad outfield, at least since the heydays. But we are definitely in a way and a path of respectability, at least a little bit more with Kwan out there, Straw out there. I mean, it was for a while it was Brantley and Hopes out in the outfield, but we're definitely looking at some options there, and I guess it's almost been a secret. I actually haven't. I take a second. I actually like Ahmed Rosario. It's really hard to say. I don't, because I know he's a player that comes under a lot of scrutiny because there's not really a spot for him on his roster. When it may be because I'm a sucker for fantasy, and so I had him during his year when he went off in New York, and so I was wanting him to be better than he was, and has been for Cleveland. That's not to say that he's been bad, but he's just hasn't been what we I think possibly expected. The 90th percentile outcome that they saw in that year in the Mets was just not going to happen. And so I don't mind him being out in left field. I think that the prospects that are, he's not stealing time from anybody out in left field that we need to see. I mean, at this point in time, with Nolan Jones being injured, Valera being Nolan Jones being injured, Valera being so far down, there's just some options that I think that Rosario is not holding spot for, in my opinion, at least. Because I admittedly am not as much of a prospect guy as you guys are, and in our little chat, I'm being scolded as to who I'm missing out on and who Ahmed's stealing from. So I will let you guys have it. But after I'll let you guys talk about who you want to talk about that Ahmed is stealing time from, and then we will go for the rotation next, and just go over that real quick before we get to our hater bold predictions to end out the podcast.
So it's going to be a revolving door of guys this season. I think that should be an expectation that everybody has this season, that a lot of the guys like Zimmer, Mercado, Bradley, they're going to be on short leashes, and there's a lot of top talent at the top of the farm. But a guy who had a really respectable spring was Richie Palacios. And I was actually kind of surprised to see him get the axe and get optioned back to AAA when he did in that, I think it was the second wave of cuts. But Palacios is another one of these guys that's cut from the same cloth that Cleveland's front office has been trying to get, of, solid contact hitter, not really for power, lots of speed. And he fits right in. So Ahmed is probably taking some time away from Palacios, who's going to be 25 this season. He's probably ready to break through. He hit over 300 in spring training this season, had put up some pretty solid at-bats. I mean, we have to have the guy who rocks those glasses at the plate in the lineup. It's incredible. But
yeah, we hyped him last week with Meisel too, right? And
Yeah, we did. But he's a younger and probably going to be equivalent, if not better, at the plate version of Ahmed Rosario as a hybrid second baseman, corner outfielder. So, you're paying money to a guy who doesn't fit, who's just blocking a guy who does a very similar thing, who might be better with a bat, who might be a better defender somewhere out there. We don't know until we try, but he's not really known for his defense either at second or in the corner outfield spots.
Right. It's kind of just like, it's kind of the like, if this team were competing, if we were like, we're one league average hitter away from making the playoffs, and it's between Ahmed Rosario and Richie Palacios, you'd go with Ahmed Rosario in a second, because we know that's what Ahmed Rosario is. He is a solid major league average hitter. He hits for contact. That's what he does. Richie Palacios, he's projected to be about that level, close to league average, depending on what projection system you like. But he could be amazing. And this team's not competing. This team is not one Ahmed Rosario away from making the playoffs. It's several players better than Ahmed Rosario away from making the playoffs, of which Richie Palacios could be one. He could also not be one, but we don't know. One thing we do know is Ahmed Rosario isn't that guy, right? So, why keep this guy who we have for 2 more years, who could fetch something on the trade market? I mean, he is a league average player. I mean, he was at shortstops last year. He was worth 2.7 FWAR. Rule of thumb, 2 WAR is about a league average contributor. So he was a arguably above average league contributor. What? Like, you're telling me no one wants a league average hitter who can play shortstop? I find that hard to believe. So that's why I've kind of always been against Rosario. It's not anything personal about him. He's a perfectly useful major league hitter. It's just he is not what this team needs. This team needs upside. This team needs stars. This team does not need 280 with mediocre power. Yeah. And mediocre on base too.
Right. Yeah. I think you can see the profiles that they are looking at trying to acquire, contact hitters, on base guys, and Ahmed's unfortunately he's better than some, but not as much as some of the other guys. So you guys have swayed me a little bit more than I thought you were going to on Ahmed. So let's move on to the rotation. We have a 4-man rotation to start the season, which is expected, as much as these guys are going to be short with length in these games. We're probably going to see them get through 4 innings, 5 innings, maybe, if they're lucky. But so that means that we have a 4-man rotation going. Obviously, Bieber is going to start tomorrow's game.
Sorry, I'm just typing stuff to make you laugh.
You are at this point. It's great. It's great. One day, maybe you'll see the private chats of what we have here in our podcast. But
no, they're rated XXX. No one can see those.
We're PG-13 here. But so obviously we have Bieber starting tomorrow. Zach Plesac is going to get the start on Saturday. Aaron Savale, I believe, is after him on Sunday, and then Cal Quantrill. That means that Tristan McKenzie, who is pretty much everybody's chance for breaking out in the rotation, is going to be a piggyback. And also, as I stated, with these guys not being stretched out as much, you're going to see some more 2 or 3 inning bumps with your Connor Pilkington, and Eli Morgan. I don't know what the plan is for Sam Henches, for other guys in the bullpen. I don't know how long those guys are planned to go for, but you might see a couple more bullpen days as well. What do you guys, Ethan, what do you think about the starting rotation? Who is most likely to get the Tristan piggyback? Who's most likely to get the Eli Morgan one? And the Connor Pilkington, who is going to get his piggyback in at least this first go around?
So McKenzie and Plesac piggybacked off of each other all through spring. I would find it hard to imagine that changes. And anything could. We don't know anything beyond that, but I would think that those two would stay together as a pair. So Saturday, I think guys are going to be around a 60 pitch count is what they're going to be limited to. So you'll probably see 3 2/3 to 4 innings from most of the guys in the rotation, and then
hopefully
2 to 3 innings out of anybody out of the bullpen. Yes, barring getting shelled in the first 2 innings or the first time through the lineup. But in a perfect world, and how obviously we think of the rotation, we're fairly confident in their abilities. But this is a bizarre year. It's going to be strange. There's going to be a lot of this the first month of the year while they can take advantage of those 2 extra arms in the bullpen with the 28-man roster. But as far as Pilkington, Eli, and I would assume the 4th is probably Logan Allen. I would probably put Logan Allen as far down as you can. So if Quantrill's making that 4th start of the season, put Logan there. The team and Terry Francona especially had really glowing things to say about Connor Pilkington. I don't know if I necessarily saw that translate. It was spring training. Sample sizes are small. Obviously, those plate appearances don't matter, but the team was impressed with something. I would probably see him 3rd, but you're probably going to see Eli Morgan tomorrow, if I had to guess. He feels like a good follow-up to Bieber. They're very differing pitching styles, and Eli had a really nice spring. Mitchell and I talked about this in our private chat. I'm very excited to see Eli Morgan with a radar gun. He looked like he put on some extra weight. He's got some really nice muscle. A couple of the coaches and even some of the writers have commented on it. In the spring training ballparks, we didn't have access to StatCast, so we couldn't see how fast he was throwing. And we would love to see him throwing 91 to 94 on that fastball to just pair with that filthy changeup. So going to be excited to see.
Amazing.
Yes, it's going to make him a deadly pitcher. So I would probably guess Bieber, Morgan, Plesac, McKenzie, Savali, Pilkington, and Quantrill Logan.
Sounds about right.
Seems like as good a guess as any.
Yeah, I can say it. I'm asking you to guess exactly how many games we're gonna win. We don't know what the situation will be, but yeah, that sounds as good as anything to me. Mitch, what do you think about the rotation starting out?
Yeah, I mean, so the rotation is good. It's Shane Bieber is excellent. I think projections are underselling him a little bit this year just because he didn't pitch much last year. Pitchers are injury; they're vulnerable. Like they get hurt all the time. Like maybe he won't pitch.
Shaking his head.
Yes, he did miss some time last year, but I think Cleveland's pretty good at managing pitcher injuries, and he pitched a full slate the prior year. So, I'm cautiously optimistic that he, returns to his workhorse ways of days of old. After that, I'm very hot and cold on Zach Plesac, as we've discussed on these airwaves. I think he could be excellent. He was in 2020. I think he could be not a major league starting pitcher like he was in 2021, arguably. At very worst, he was a bad MLB starting pitcher in 2021. And it just all depends on if he can get back to having that elite command and that really high slider usage and having confidence in that pitch. We will see. Quantrill and Savali are both innings eaters. That's the main point here, is that in the past, we're really used to these amazing Cleveland rotations with, not just Kluber, but we got Carrasco, and you got He Who Shall Not Be Named, and you got Mike Clevenger, and you got, you got 4 dudes who are legitimate, could be number ones in other rotations, in lesser rotations. But, in Cleveland, Mike Clevenger was the 4th starter, and this is not that rotation. We need to recognize that. Maybe one of these dudes takes a leap, but other than McKenzie, I wouldn't really count on it. McKenzie, as Gerbs pointed out, he's everyone's darling. He is everyone's pick to break out, rightfully so. I remember watching the Tristan McKenzie near perfect game in the Ned School library when I should have been studying, and just on pins and needles, is this guy gonna do it? I think he made it 7 2/3, and it was, Like, it would have been so gratifying for me, and also for him, I guess. No, the guy is just such a great story. He seems like a great kid. Love funky dudes who release the ball from a weird place and have really cool, not typical bodies. All about inclusivity here on the CornerCast. So yeah, Mackenzie is my pick to break out, and there really isn't anyone else. There is no one else.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone over the rotation a couple weeks ago, and yeah, Mackenzie definitely is the guy that looks to be the next stud guy
Hopefully.
out there. Hopefully, and like I said, I do think that the point that the rotation is the strength of the team is overstated. I think almost at this point, but the guys that are making it up are not guys like you said in the past. Are not guys that are going to go out and be the aces of other teams. But it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that level of that error bar is a little bit lower. The ceiling's a little bit lower on the rotation.
It just means this isn't a top 3 rotation. It's a top 15 rotation.
Right. So, okay, let's finish up tonight with going over some bold predictions, some hitters to watch. I toyed with trying to name this segment. I don't really have one, and I don't really feel like trying to go over it. So, what do you guys think of bold predictions? Who do you want to talk about on the hitter side? Because we did the pitchers 2 weeks ago before we did the Zach podcast. Ethan, do you have a hitter that you wanted to discuss tonight?
So I did mine a little bit weird last time around. It was more, bullpen bashing, not intentionally. I just don't see how that's all going to come together. So this time around, I really think there's potential for awards. So I highlighted 3 guys to look at. And I'm going to lead with one, not for his offensive prowess, but I'm going to throw this out there. Based on his numbers last season and who won the actual awards, Miles Straw is going to contend for a Platinum Glove in 2022, is my bold prediction.
I was going to say All-Star. Nice.
All-Star could be really fun, too. This is a guy who hit 30 doubles, stole 30 bases, hit 260 last season. He is the prototypical old-school cool leadoff hitter. But his defense is incredible. I mean, he does stuff out there that, Kevin Kiermaier was doing at his prime before he really started hitting the injury wall with Tampa Bay. The winners last year were Nolan Arenado and Carlos Correa. Comparing the numbers, obviously positions are different. Straw's numbers were light years better than Correa's defensively last year. So it kind of comes down to who had eyes on who, what teams were more prevalent, all of that kind of thing. And Nolan Arenado is Nolan Arenado over at third base in St. Louis. But I think Straw has a real chance. I don't think anybody's really going to fight him for Gold Glove, but I think he's really going to compete for the Platinum Glove in the American League for center field.
I think Minnesota center fielder might have something to say about no one competing with him, but I hope you're right.
I question Buxton's health. I think he's an incredible player, but I need to see that guy play 150 games, not just 60.
You don't want to root for injury, but Buxton has to prove that he can actually be healthy.
He's like Grady Sizemore. I respect him so much, and for what we never got with Grady, I hope Minnesota gets, because it's one of baseball's greatest what-ifs, Grady Sizemore, and you almost feel it could be the same with Byron Buxton.
Right, with Byron Buxton, it's like, okay, well, we have to root for what's good for the sport too.
Yes.
And Byron Buxton is obviously good for the sport.
For sure. Ethan, do you want to finish up, or Mitch, do you want to go with one of your hitters?
I said I'm sorry for cutting Ethan off.
Oh no, you're good, man.
Sure. I will go with okay, I'll go with Bobby Bradley. And being a negative guy about a player, this is a person, and he's seems like a pretty good guy, and I like Bobby Bradley. I'm rooting for him, right? It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait for Bobby Bradley to be done. No, it'd be great. I would really love to see him, because his home runs are beautiful. They are like arguably more aesthetically pleasing than even Franmil Reyes is, and that's saying something. Like I actually was at the game where he had his first career home run, and it was probably the most impressive home run I've ever seen live. Like it was just gorgeous. So like I'm absolutely rooting for him. Just want to get that out of the way before I say like dude's got to get better if he wants to stick in the major leagues. Or Major League Baseball needs to adopt a greater roster size so that teams can have guys on their bench who are destined to be only pinch hitters of the Matt Stairs variety or of the John Kruk variety, guys coming off the bench just to pinch hit. Because that's what he is. He is a guy who it's like, all right, like he has a decent shot of hitting a home run. And if he doesn't hit a home run, he is probably going to get out. Just a 294 on base percentage last year, which for a first baseman is borderline unacceptable, if not just entirely unacceptable. His overall line was saved by his power a bit, giving him a 99 WRC plus. So right around average, 100's average, remember. So like you'll take that from a shortstop, right? I was just talking about how Andres Jimenez was so good at a 94 WRC plus, and here I am bashing Bradley for a 99. But you expect better out of a first baseman. And the real problem is he chases about at a league average clip, slightly more, but he almost never makes contact. Like his contact numbers, if you just look at per swing, his contact is 14 percentage points lower than the league average. That's not like 14 percentage points worse than Miles Straw or Jose Ramirez. That is the league average player. Like he is a bottom of the barrel contact guy. And if you're not going to walk and you're not going to hit for any contact and just strike out all the time, you got to hit for more homers than he does. And so either he has to challenge 50 homers next year, 45 homers, probably not happening, or he needs to work on his approach, take more pitches out of the strike zone, stop chasing, hard to do, or he needs to just make more contact, also hard to do. I just don't see it. I just don't see it with him. And I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I think by the end of the year, we'll probably see like Nolan Jones at first base, Josh Naylor at first base, Yu Chang at first base, Owen Miller at first base, just not Bobby Bradley at first base.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, especially being out of options. He's made the trek back from Columbus and too many times. But yeah, I think, and I mentioned it before, I think the path they seem to be going is with the contact hitters because it's easier to put some power on some guys' bats than it is to try to get that bat to a ball. And speaking of contact guys, I am going to go with one of mine. You had mentioned Josh Naylor as a possible first baseman. I think Josh Naylor is going to end up with the most first base starts of anybody this year. That's my bold prediction for Josh Naylor. One thing I wanted to point out, his swing strike rate is phenomenal. Last year it was a little bit higher. Obviously he had the gruesome injury, but even last year, 9.8 swing strike rate. If you put that with a qualifying number of at bats, so obviously take some, lose some from him. He's right at Freddie Freeman level, Paul Goldschmidt level. Kike Hernandez was a little bit higher than him. Guys like Cesar, Nathaniel Lowe, Xander Bogaerts were a little bit better, but I mean, this is a top-notch area that he's wanting to look that he's being at. He needs to get back to that being more selective at the plate. His walk rate is only a 5.6%. The strikeout rate is 18, which is great in today's baseball league, but that walk rate is just so low. He's obviously just chasing at pitches that he is not able to get around on. And as somebody that's so good at identifying the ball and getting the contact, he should be able to, identify balls and take some and be a little bit more patient at the be a little bit more patient at the plate. But I do think that he's going to come out of this as the leader with starts at first base going into the end of the year. So go ahead, Mitch.
Really quickly before I know we're pushing an hour, so we got to wrap. But really quickly, like Josh Naylor is like this classic. It's weird. He's got too many good skills, and it kind of hurts him, right? Like you mentioned the swing strike rate. It's super low. It's impressively low for someone who has that much raw power, and he does have tons of raw power. Problem is, he also swings a ton, and he swings a ton at pitches out of the strike zone specifically. So when you make elite contact and you swing at pitches out of the strike zone, what do you have? Weak contact. That's no good. And so there are a couple ways he can go from here. He can try and cut down on his chase. Great. That would be ideal in my opinion. He could also swing at more pitches in the zone, which is the Tim Anderson route. Tim Anderson swings at just as many pitches out of the strike zone as Josh Naylor, but he swings at almost every strike too. If Josh Naylor wanted to have that approach, that would probably also work. But as it stands right now, he does not swing at enough strikes. He swings at too many balls and he makes too much weak contact. Here's a guy who, if he just like figured out the right pitch to swing at, we're talking about a guy who could hit almost 300, who, he did walk some in the minors. Maybe he could walk a little bit more in the majors and hit 35 homers. I mean, 290, 35 homers, decent on base, like good slugging. That is a good major league hitter. And that's his potential. So I'm with you, Gerbs. That's an awesome pick.
Awesome. Well, guys, as Mitch was saying, we are getting close to an hour on here, so we're going to wrap up because tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is opening day, the day that we've all been waiting for. So first pitch is at 4 o'clock, I believe, correct?
4:10.
4 o'clock Eastern. I think it's 3:10 local time in Kansas City. But so we will probably be in our Discord tomorrow as much as possible in a game thread. Discord is where we have a ton of fun with our public side. We do have a game thread chat that we talk about whatever game is on. Usually it's Cavs on Sundays. During the football season, it's Browns. But we will definitely be hitting that up tomorrow as we watch Shane Bieber take on the Kansas City Royals. And Steve Kwan is going to get 2 hits tomorrow. That's my bold prediction. So you guys don't have to make any. I'm just putting it out there into the universe and hoping that the posy vibes that I have from my Jose shirt this morning continue to irradiate into Steve Kwan's bat tomorrow. So again, we're wrapping up. We'll get this up on the site as soon as possible. And see you guys for opening day. And you guys take care.